everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks in another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we are jumping into a game that was not so recently, this replay is a little bit older, played here on the Rock Jungle. Not a map that we see all too often, and today spawning as the blue team leader, as a Cortex commander here on the southern side. It's going to be a commander that goes by the name of Aurelium. Aurelium clocking in at 41 open skill, and not a name that I recognize. Could be a renamed commander, but if it isn't, then definitely somebody new to the rank of 40s. I feel like almost everybody 40 and above we see at least once or twice every now and again. But Aurelium here, going to be making potentially their debut as the blue Cortex commander here, right down on the southeastern side of the blue team. Spawning the exact opposite position here, spawning as the red team leader. It's a name that, if you're a member of the Brightworks, you've definitely run into here and there. It's going to be a commander that goes by the name of Jamacus. Jamacus clocking in at 53 open skill and going to be showing us what he's got as an Armada commander on the land and going to be playing on the power lane, I guess you could call it. I'm not entirely sure the terminology for it, but it's the lane that is stacked in your advantage here as the red commanders here for the red team on the northwestern side, and then similarly mirrored here on the southern side for the blue team. Interestingly enough, Aurelium going into an air live. I can't help but wonder, are we going for some sort of like a transport play? Are we moving the commander with a transport? What are we doing with this? We do have a construction plane queued up right here. I suppose the construction plane is convenient for the fact that it's able to reach different parts of the map very easily, but this is not a map with prohibitive metal extractors to gather. No mechs is up on top of high plateaus or anything like that. It's just a little bit of a wider open map. It's a map that doesn't feature as many metal extractors as a lot of others. It tends to actually be, well, relative to some other maps anyways, a fairly low metal map. As you can see, there's one metal extractor here. There are several green metal extractors as well, which are worth double metal. And there's one out here in the sea as well, under the water right there. Both of the naval commanders here. The yellow commander looks like it'll be Vanaja, a commander to fear out on the water, going to be going up against Mathematico, the 33 open skill Canadian commander, making their debut in the water here against Vanaja. Vanaja is a fearsome foe, known as the Pirate of the High Seas of Beyond All Reason. A commander that's well worth respecting if you're going to be playing in the water. You better bring your best naval game, because Vanaja got good at Navy and kept winning Navy, so kept playing Navy, and as a result of that, just kept getting better and better at Navy, and now is one of the top Navy players, at least that comes to mind, or comes to this humble commentator's mind. So whenever I do see Vanaja in the water, it definitely means that something interesting is about to go down. Already we've got a gunboat on the, well, other side of the map here. We already had one of them go down, which was a nice snipe right here for Mathematico, winning that earliest engagement, and now we do have another gunboat, followed by a frigate, followed by a constructor to round everything out right here. Now, meanwhile, we do also have some aggression coming out. Pink commander right here, Cat Lordy, going to be going ahead and moving forward with a couple of those pawns, trying to get them into the fight here and taking a decent trade against these grunts. Yeah, nice micro right here from Bacon Dude 1786.5, the powder blue commander, who's going to be, well, trying to get the most value out of these grunts as possible, but frankly speaking, very difficult to right now get the value out of those grunts, I mean. Dog one is open, moving forward aggressively with the commander here as well, vying for control of this super valuable 3.7 metal extractor. And it really is valuable, right? I mean, when there's only so many mexes on the map, every single one of them that you can manage to grab is worth managing to grab, but especially if there are any that are worth substantially more, like, for instance, well, I guess it's not quite double the metal, is it? It's like 1.5 the metal, more or less. Any hoodle. Frigate 1v2 up here on the front line. We also have the Dolphin, which is a little bit more powerful than a gunboat. I would say it's somewhere between a gunboat and a frigate. It does a decent amount of damage out of those twin cannons, but it doesn't have much range, so it has to get really, really close in order to do that damage. And obviously, the closer you get with the boats, the more likely the enemy is to be able to hit you with the entirety of their force. And so that's why oftentimes the Dolphins are, I wouldn't say underpowered, but they're undervalued. Well, they're appropriately valued, but they're underpowered, I guess, within their own space. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. You're never going to have a naval game that doesn't go to frigates eventually, is what I'm trying to say. Whoa! Very early comp snipe right there from Dog 1 is open. I didn't even see it, but it looks like the brown commander went down. Okay, so some LLTs exploded. Tells me that this commander dove a little too far. And now all of a sudden the blue commander is going to be eating up 1,025 metal right off the ground here from the brown corpse. Taking some shots from the thug, but frankly speaking, doesn't even care. The amount of metal we're pulling out of this corpse per second is well worth the amount of damage we're going to take on the commander. We do have to be a little careful here, though. Yeah, pink forces are coming in. Okay. D-gun, I think he ate the entire corpse before that D-gun connected. Rocketeers, not the quickest at bringing commanders down. Thugs, however, are quite good. Ooh, manages to get another D-gun off here. Anonix Twitch, yeah, running away right now. Realizes, oh, wait a second, you're very low HP. Ooh, so close. Dog One is open, is completely cloaked. Oh my goodness, don't tell me he manages to escape right here. The Thug's in hot pursuit as Dog One is open, completely cloaked. Manages to escape for now. The last plasma shot does miss. Cat Lordy forced to go south here as Anonix Twitch and Bacon Dude all vie for control, but my goodness, Dog One is open, manages to escape with their life. That is unbelievable. 4% HP, and you have got to know that the Brown Commander is kicking themselves about not being able to kill that Commander. There's nothing you can do. The Thug couldn't see the Commander. It was invisible. It was just being told that there are enemies in front of it, even though it couldn't see a thing. That's a rough situation, but after all that chaos has transpired, it does leave the red team actually in control of the metal extractor, which is quite nice. All of a sudden, all this force shifting down here means that there's a serious retaliation. It means that we need to start laying on the pressure on this northern side. All of a sudden, Jamaica has been left completely alone on the northern side and needs to be punished for that. We should see some Rocketeers being headed in this direction. We have now 2 armies on the southern side and 1 on the northern, means it's time to start applying pressure. Either sending 3 armies south to start winning this fight, since there's nothing up on the northern side, or pushing a little on the northern side to force these armies to reactively go back up to the northern side. Sometimes you'll hear commanders say that it's best to play this game adaptively. That's what we're talking about. Paying attention to your team and where their army is moving and trying to predict where the enemy army is moving. Obviously, the caveat to that is that it comes with experience, understanding how the game is played and how the enemy is likely to react to your moving your army, and also predicting what intelligence they have, right? If they can't even see your army, then you faking a movement in one direction or another doesn't actually do anything. Nice engagement down here, though. Aquia, the green commander, going to be pushing forward with a whole bunch of those aggravators and doing a lovely job of, well, forcing back the forces there of the maroon and orange commander. We are going for a agitator on the high ground right here. I don't mind it per se, but obviously a little bit vulnerable to D-gun should a commander make their way over there. Oh, we had another commander kill on the southern side as well. Well, would you look at that? Looks like the commander here for the Lavender Commander, Dr. Drawn, or maybe Dr. Drawn, not entirely sure. Either way, commander has gone down right here. Now we are going for more build power in the back line. We also have plenty of energy. Looks like Jamak is actually going for a very greedy Armada wind turbine energy-based economy. This can be a super easy way to boost the early game economy. These T1E converters only cost energy. They cost 1 metal and 1,000 energy apiece or so. They're a very effective way of scaling the early game economy well into T2. In fact, you can even get into proper T3 scaling with them if you have enough space. I wouldn't say this is one of those maps where you, well, maybe you do. You do have a lot of space available over here and kind of over here. I've seen T3 ecos that are based entirely around T1 E-converters. It's almost a little bit of a comeback mechanic in and of itself, because when those E-converters, well, essentially when you pay for those T2 E-converters, you have to dump 300, closer to 350 metal per metal or E-converter into building one of those, right? Whereas the T1 E-converters, you don't have to do that. It means you can dump all that extra metal into the energy production. So you can build fusions, you can build aphises, all that good stuff here. Nice navy right out here from Mathematico. Massive bundle of frigates and destroyers. We are trying to repair this all back up and running, but the yellow commander Vanaja is also keeping pressure high. And we do have those res subs to reclaim a whole bunch of this, which means we don't need the commander in the back. It can stay at the base and start being a bunch of build power. I like the aggression here from Mathematico a little bit nicer here, though, because obviously, should this commander be caught out in the open, it always has the last resort, the final function, the ultimate protocol, the self-destruct button, which allows it to work as essentially in the water a giant naval landmine. And if you can get your opponent to stand over your commander while it goes thermonuclear super plasma critical, you're going to end up with a bunch of toasty boats, either dead or dying. It's pretty easy to mop up the Navy and secure a win in that direction. It's one of those weird win conditions in the Navy, but one that's definitely well worth being aware of because of how powerful it can be. Your commander, essentially a one-time use massive naval landmine. Gauntlet on the high ground right here. Gauntlet on the high ground right here. Gauntlet on the low ground right here. It's gauntlets, gauntlets, and gauntlets galore. We have all sorts of static defense plasma cannons firing away into the distance, trying to find whatever, friendly fire and or enemy fire they can. You know what? I don't mind it, though. Yeah, this is a very important position to hold. The only issue, of course, is that this thing is going to struggle to hit the plasma cannon on the high ground, whereas the high ground plasma cannon has more than enough range to hit this one over here. A little bit of a run-by as well. Nicely shut down by some shurikens, paralyzing all this and making it an easy cleanup as rocket spiders now roll out of the T2 lab here from Jamakis. We are 9 minutes and 40 seconds into the game, and the frontliners already have a T2 lab. Abiyala. That's what I'm going to go with. The pink commander here already securing this entire front line, but needs to get these mexes up and running. There's a missing 2.1 there and a missing 2.1 there. And I'm expecting that we see T2 coming out eventually here. Yeah, indeed, we do have T2 up and running. Looks like the orange commander going to hand out some of those T2 units. We also have the agitator on this high ground. Again, firing away and finding so much value. A very strategically placed agitator or gauntlet I will command. Never let it be said that I don't have an appreciation for a very nicely placed static defense. It's just that usually they aren't, and so I'm a little bit skeptical most of the time. Either way, though, this frontline force is falling apart, but it's actually not the end of the world. We're just waiting for the T2 reinforcements. This is essentially the bumper. This is the speed bump to slow down this T1 push until the T2 units can come out and make all the difference. Oh, well, this is just lovely, too. The tank commander paying attention on the map realizes, hey, there's no anti-air here, and indeed sends in those shuriken to make this an even more efficient trade. Also helping those spiders a lot, because obviously they benefit a lot from having their targets be very static, as opposed to walking and talking and breathing hunks of metal. Fighters will be pulled eventually to clean up the shurikens, so those will go out of the air. Not bad right there. They found their value before going down, which is the most important part here. We do have a couple leftover pawns, the remnants of an army here. And Gauntlet Cannon continuing to try and fire away as much as possible, as far as possible. But it's only a matter of time before these recluses make all the world of a difference. And we do have more of them coming up and running right here, but we also have welders on the back of this, as well as the T2 metal extractors. I would actually like to see this AGO set up, since we already have the con turret over here. It feels like starting that AGO wouldn't be the worst idea. It's also far enough away from the base that I feel like it's not the end of the world if you just go ahead and build the AGO and then leave it as the AGO rather than converting it to a Prude later on in the game. I feel like Prudes are undervalued by Armada Commanders. So many times have I watched an Armada Commander build the AGO, not upgrade to a Prude, and watches their entire bases obliterated by 6 or 7 T1 Cortex bombers. A couple of T2 Cortex bombers coming up right now for the blue commander, Aurelium, who has not actually transitioned out of the air. I am surprised to see. I thought we were definitely going to be... Well, I mean, it explains why this front line went so poorly right here, obviously. Effectively a 1... more like a 2 versus 3 right here on the southern side. I expect to see T2 units... Never mind. T2 units not going to be rolling out of a T2 lab, but T2 lab that won't even exist for much longer. The purple commander, going into something cheeky. We've got a nuclear missile coming up and running right here for the purple comm. All right, 8,000 metal to build one of those, almost the cost of a T3 lab in order to build a nuclear missile launcher, and of course, they also cost a tremendous amount of energy to charge. I believe it's 1,000 per second, not to mention the 90,000 it costs to even put the thing together in the first place. Actually, relatively energy inexpensive for the build cost, but you do pay a significant tax when it's actually up and running. 1,000 energy per second is no joke. I like to imagine you're charging the missile. My headcanon, my speculative lore is that these little plasma projectiles are essentially infinitely scalable. It's just a matter of how much energy generation / like energy condensing generator you can fit inside of a unit. That's why things like Vanguard and whatnot are possible, is because they have a massive frame so they can cram tons of energy into the plasma cannon. And a nuclear missile is essentially just a highly refined, extremely well-stabilized plasma field, tucked inside of a nice little missile package to keep it safe from shielding and whatnot. Sheldon firing off into the distance as well. Now you can tell it's a little bit of an older replay because it was played before the VFX update that just came out. If you're, well, an adamant part of the community member, or maybe just a common spectator, a casual spectator, I should say, you will have noticed recently that things have gotten a little bit fancier. Things have started to look a little bit different. Some of the units are firing differently shaped projectiles and whatnot. This is a good example of what it looked like before. You can go compare it to the games you're playing now in order to see a little bit of the difference. One thing I noticed is that Sheldon actually seemed to be firing not slower, but their projectiles travel slower, which is really interesting. Is this... Well, alright. Torpedo bombers that were produced by the Blue Commander used to crush the Navy here of Venaja, who now sends in all the boats. It's actually a kind of a expensive trade. These frigates are trying to kill these torpedo launchers. Eventually, they will go down. If this was all resurrected, I guess I wouldn't mind it, but there's already a res sub eating up all the metal right now for the Yellow Commander, and there's no destroyers to clean all that up. This is a bad situation for Venaja, don't get me wrong, but it definitely could have been a little bit worse here. Having the res sub at all on the front line to reclaim any of this is tremendous. Mathematico using the commander actually to reclaim while res subs patch boats up and get them back up and running. Big old pawn running by here as well. I was just about to zoom out, but the green commander hid some pawns for me in the trees. If you've seen my pawn short, you'll know the lore behind these guys is that they were actually ambush predators, leaping out of the trees from behind cover in order to do unspeakable acts of violence. Now they serve Armada as mechanized forces, but before that, yeah, they were quite a threat on their homeworld. A surprising lack of a push right here from Jamakis on this top side. I guess it's just more a matter of stabilizing this so that we can go harder in the greed. Yeah, we did get that AGO up and running eventually. We also have more and more of these E-converters churning out energy all the time right here. Oh, well, would you look at that? Speaking of churning out energy, not these wind turbines that are mere moments away from going up in smoke alongside this geothermal. Boom goes the base of the blue commander, who does get one last T2 fighter out. Hey, that fighter's actually quite nice. Already shoots down a couple of bombers and is going to continue trying to defend this base. Doing what it can. It is all but a lone fighter here trying to shuttle this down, so obviously not going to be able to do all of it on its own, but eventually it will chip away at these bombers enough that they get shut down. Ooh, another one of those AGO. It's not even built yet, so it will fall. Nicely done. A T2 fighter working on him. But those bombers are still up and running. We have a big old stack of E-converters available here as well. And did the nuclear missile get spotted? Ooh, that's really important to know. I'm going to select the red commander to see the player view. Did the nuke get spotted? Oh, it didn't get spotted. Oh, wait. Oh, yes, it did. It did. The nuclear missile did get spotted right here by the red commander. Bombs away on top of the wind turbines. And more importantly than not, do we have anti-nuke? We do indeed. The brown commander, whoa. The brown commander, actually starting an anti-nuke, doesn't have one quite yet. Similarly here, it looks like we do have an anti-nuke, but it's uncharged. Oh, no. Every commander in this map currently without anti-nuclear defense, as the purple commander struggles to produce enough resources here to defend themselves, as well as charge the nuke. Obviously, you need, like I said, thousands of energy in order to charge it, as well as a couple hundred metal, I believe, to build per nuke. It's only a couple metal per second, but it adds up pretty quick, obviously. Nukes take, I believe the Armada nuke is 90 seconds. I believe the core nuke is 180. So a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So yeah, a couple hundred metal to build that nuke, and then thousands of energy. But I'll tell you what works great, has worked great, and always will work great. A good old-fashioned Sheldon Bowl. Throw in a radar bot as well there for a little bit of vision, and you've suddenly got yourself a very dangerous little comp, capable of doing wonderful things with the very minimalist of micro. They basically just need to be clicked around. They can ball up as much as you want. There's nothing else that needs to happen, but here we go. Bombs away, and I think we all know exactly where this nuke is going. Targeted directly into the backline right here, and look at that targeting. Plopping it right in the middle of this red base. I don't think it's close enough to kill that AGO. We'll just have to wait and see. Missile is away. Ooh, there it is. Missile is up in the air. Whenever I catch these nukes, I do like to go into the cinema mode. They're quite beautiful. Boom goes the red base, and well enough into the backline to take out the AGO, the laboratory, the build power, the E-converters, the wind turbines, and a whole bunch more. All falls right here for the red comm. Jamakis loses it all and suddenly is cast back to the Stone Ages. Luckily does have a little bit of build power that was separated from the main facility. We have a couple of laboratories available, so at the very least this is going to be recoverable. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jamakis retreat into the shell and just start ecoing as greedily as possible, because essentially on the southern side all they have to do is continue the aggression, and this should be well won. There's no resbots to eat any of this up is my biggest critique. Gunships in the air are going to be quite nice for shooting this down as well. Yeah, Blue Commander still holding in there, still trying to eat corpses in order to produce more and more of these planes. Hey, you know what? The Wasp gunships are pretty good against T1. They do a decent amount of damage. They have a fairly high impulse as well, which means that they're good against clumped up units. They do enough single target damage so that they can also be quite good against even some of the T2 and T3 units if they're built up in mass. They are the jack of all trades of gunships in the air. Look at this army moving forward right here, though. Yeah, gunships, I mean, like I don't want to hype them up too much. They're quite good, but not going to be enough to save the day here, I'm afraid. Laboratory does fall eventually. The construction turret now going to start reclaiming a whole bunch of metal. Looks like the rattlesnake is going to be firing away here as well, trying to chip away at these static defenses on the other side of the map. Do we have another arm nuke charged? We are almost there. How are the anti-nukes looking? One of which is fully charged on the southern side. The brown anti-nuke is, oh, not even done building. Yikes. No T2 metal extractors here. This is capricious. Going for an anti-nuke. Does not have one yet. Luckily, the tank commander does. Oh, anti-nuke is away. Nice defense right there. Orange commander with the anti-nuke soon enough to defend against the base. It looks like only one will go down so far today. The only other vulnerable base right here is Vanaja's, who of course can't afford to go into those T2, not with a gigantic army like this sitting outside of the base. This choke point here is really brutal. These res subs have been trying to patch together this army, but it's a lot of frigates, and really when you get into these choke points, you need the destroyer's range advantage in order to actually win this fight. Yeah, trying to reclaim or resurrect as much as possible, but on the retreat. Man, those destroyers doing... Oh, he's doing the move. He's doing the play, ladies and gentlemen. He cancels it at the very last second. Vanaja was 1 second away from obliteration right there and canceled it just to be sure to try and maximize the value right here. Will cloak the commander once more so that hopefully there's an opportunity. I don't think it matters, though. E-converters in the backline. Wow, the best defense there is. Loads of pings coming out from Jamakis now as a bunch of these marauding platypus, the amphibious laser bots, do blast apart the base right here of the yellow commander, forcing a full retreat. But luckily, Mathematico didn't contest this too harshly, and now those res subs get a chance to eat their fill. Nice little run by right here, though. Yeah, Platypus doing good work here. They will eventually blast down the build power here, or at least they should. There we go. Brown Commander does lose the build power, means this lab is going to be critically stalled. E-power does stall as well as the wind speed drops. All of a sudden, those wind turbines stop turning. Your energy stalls, and you can be put in a really awkward situation here. The Sheldon ball up on high has been super annoying, though. We've killed 2 bases so far. Practically a third. The Brown Commander essentially out of this right here, trying to repair this nuclear chamber for as long as possible to keep that nuke charging, but it's charging very slowly because the wind speed, again, has died down. And the Purple Commander doesn't really have very many wind turbines. Handed all of them off, it looks like, to the Powder Blue Commander, who is now pushing forward with some good old-fashioned T3 Shivas, the amphibious siege mech. They do it all. They have a big old riot Gauss cannon. They have a plasma missile that they can fire out as well. Does tons of damage. Jamakis is now feeling the sting of those very cheap, very effective early game T3, moving their way across the map right here. This is a nice catch, though. Shuriken do manage to paralyze these. I'd love to see a capture command, frankly. Capricious has so few units that I think a capture command makes a lot of sense. Ooh, anti-nuke. Not necessarily targeted right there, but it was what those pawns landed on, and that must have been a real clincher right there for the brown and red commanders who desperately need anti-nuke to defend themselves against the nuclear menace over on this side of the map, who will eventually, after a long charging period, have another nuclear missile ready to go. Yellow base on its last legs. Vanaja trying to defend with everything available here. It's a desperate defense. I have to point out, though, Jamakis' backline is vulnerable to a nuclear missile. Shiva have done wonderfully pushing forward here, and they shall continue to. One of the Shiva's great strengths is simply the fact that they are not super expensive. They're 1,550 metal, relatively speaking, cheap for their effective firepower. They have a decent amount of HP, they have tremendous range, and of course that missile means that they're, well, they're never going to come up against something that they can't beat. If it shields, the missile will break them. If it's spam, the AoE is usually good enough to take it out. They have their weaknesses, sure. Like, for instance, the sharpshooters here. They've been pumped out by the red commander. Jamakis does get a anti-nuke up and running, by the way. Razorback's out of energy right now. Oh, no. Yeah, Razorbacks for the Lavender commander. Actually, Dr. Dron does not have the energy to fire them. We need to send these lovely construction bots here, the butlers, to go build wind turbines in a faraway land. Nuclear missile, no longer in the tube, but I didn't see a base that got destroyed. I'm gonna guess, oh, that's probably it. That's probably it right there. We do have a frontline anti-nuke coming up somewhere here. I don't know why I can't find it. It looks like it's right here. I don't know why. Oh, maybe that's... Oh, I'm looking at the Gauntlet. Haha. Gauntlet is not anti-nuke. Don't be fooled by that trade. Welders pushing forward here, and we do have a sizable army of sharpshooters. At this point, the sharpshooters are enough to actually push back the Shiva. One of the biggest drawbacks of the Shiva is just that they're relatively slow. It means that the sharpshooters with effective micro can beat them once you have enough. A lot of metal and sharpshooters. We're talking 5,000 metal and sharpshooters in order to deal with a grand 13,000, 14,000 metal worth of Shiva. If only these Razorbacks had energy, I think this is more than enough to push through this line and break all of these units right here. Reclaiming all this and turning it into a fusion reactor would probably be the best bet. Anything to keep the lights turned on. I can't believe this nuke is still going. It is a genuinely useful tool if you can manage to keep it alive and running. Yeah, we're going to send the next one in the back line. Don't think that's going to happen. If you can keep it alive and running and you can continue to get value with it, it can be a very legitimately useful tool. Sometimes useful for clearing armies too, especially the Armada one, which is much more tactically useful. The lower explosive radius means you can target enemy armies a little bit more effectively without necessarily risking your own. So many construction boats here. Vanaja has actually managed to cram out a T2. By some miracle, managing to cram out a T2 lab right here. Using a whole bunch of res subs as a little bit of mobile HP power. Resurrecting, rebuilding, repairing this entire composition. Yeah, this force is never going to be able to break through this. We've got the Despot battleship up and running, and that triple-headed Cerberus attack cannon, the Gauss projectile cannon. Crazy devastating against those T1 boats. We'll shred them apart in a matter of moments. Here's a pretty good play, though. A dozen plus one Marauder coming across the map. The Green Commander trying to reinforce this with a big spam of their own. I don't think it's going to matter much. Hopefully we see these microed. It would be a bummer to see these unmicroed here. Bombers. Ooh, they almost find the APHIS. They take out the build power, but they don't quite connect with the APHIS. Unfortunate right there. As Capricious has landed. The Capricious has touched base. And is now in the best position for a D-gun imaginable. Beautiful D-gun. Absolutely zero micro right there from the Cyan Commander. I can't believe it. That Marauder push was meant to end the game. It was meant to close out the win. And it did absolutely nothing. No micro whatsoever from Dog when it's open means that those Marauder will not find any value, and all of a sudden this base has gone down. This base has been dead for 15 minutes, but finally the Sheldon will be able to push forward here. All these Sheldon combined with a grand total of 180 kills. Many of those are plenty and plenty of wind turbines and whatnot, other economic structures. Yeah, just like that, the Blue Commander taps out of the game. That was, for many intents, for all intents and speaking, that's the phrase I'm looking for. That was the last hope right there. The Shiva are nice. The Sharpshooter are already up and running. Sharpshooter here with a grand 27 kills, but many of those have been T3, so I would consider it well worth it. These T2 Despots are actually pretty good against the Sheldon here, or the Shiva, pardon me. I like it a lot. Yeah, what a fabulous trade. What a really genuinely fabulous trade. Shuriken doing a great job. Shuriken, never one of those units that it hurts to have around. They somehow always find value. Because all it takes, or because what it does take to shut them down is air power, and many commanders will not include anti-air in their composition. Shuriken, still to this day, remain one of the most OP units in the game. They're one of those units that is technically absurdly feasible to counter, and yet nobody ever does, because it's just a minor expense that you have to remember to pay. And those are always the ones that everybody forgets. It's not like your electric bill. The lights don't go out if you don't include anti-air. There's no time like the present. The trigger has been, oh, never mind. The trigger has been unpulled here. The hesitation will be the death right now of Mathematico, who has probably at some point here had the opportunity to go in and kill Vanaja, but Vanaja is one of those commanders that's very difficult to keep down. Will find ways to claw back into a game no matter what. And this is just not the fight that you need. Yeah, one Despot for 5 or 6 of those destroyers. I mean, the destroyers are really good even against T2 boats, but they're not that good. Karganeth joining the Shiva over here. I quite like that, actually. Karganeth are the Razorback of the Cortex faction. That probably blows a lot of people's minds. I feel like it does every time I say it, but it's true. They have those heat-seeking rockets, making them quite good against spam. Those rockets can also adjust their path mid-flight, which is quite cool. I don't believe any other unit can do that. It also has a little bit of built-in anti-air, which is always nice. Anti-air truck's going to be a little more effective here, but the little bit of anti-air they do have is always quite nice to see. I'm not letting any units pass the Kurgan of the wall. Demour! The red team has managed to hold on, though. And yeah, again, these sharpshooters, if you're not pushing in with any kind of scouting units to destroy all this, to waste the shots there of these sharpshooters. Down it goes. Man, sharpshooters are good, huh? The value that Jamakis has gotten out of these sharpshooters has been unreal. They've essentially provided all the defense against the T3 necessary. It's important to remember that when you go for T3, you have to remember to include a little bit of T1 as well. T1 never really goes away as an effective tool, and that feels like exactly what we've seen right here. The Scion Commander remembered to get up to T3, forgot to include a couple of T1 or T2 spams. We'd also have this backline lab pumping out a couple of Arquebuss. No, Vanguard, pardon me. Arquebuss or a Legion unit. Haha, getting my factions mixed up already. Legion isn't even officially announced, or, well, officially released. Already getting them confused. Those Mammoths just take down a nuclear bomber? My goodness. Alright. Well, the Mammoth Heavy Laser is quite powerful, apparently. Here we have another Atomic B headed in. No, there's no way. That bomber must have been quite low HP already for it to be taken down by the Mammoth right there. Either way, an effective option, by the way, for dealing with these. It will take a little break. A snooze on the mountain as enemy fighters close in here. And down it goes. 2,500 metal worth of thermonuclear firepower raining down from the skies, gone in an instant because it decided to take a little nap. Beyond a Reason is a fickle mistress. Easy come and very easy go. Well, this match looked like it was over for the red team, I have to say. They were dominative over the southern side, but that northern side hit like trucks, and especially with that platypus wave taking out so much of Vanage's base, but it just didn't kill every constructor. It didn't kill the very last con that was needed to rebuild, and now Vanage has won the sea. Easily here. 6 Despot, 20,000 metal worth of units headed out on the field here, reinforced by a couple frigates and a destroyer, and especially important, one of these mobile anti-nuke generators and radar sonar ships, giving you a whole bunch of vision and a whole bunch of depth vision, sonar vision. Karganath had been saved up here, but really not finding much effect. Where is the spam? We have an Armada constructor in the backline. It just isn't producing 40 ticks a second to send across the map right now. Yeah, the resign vote is called. The blue team has been well outscaled at this point, with the red team including about 200% their metal income. The towel is thrown. Ladies and gentlemen, after being beat within an inch of their life, after coming so close to death's door, it will be the red team who prevails against all odds, beyond all reason. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Ended.
In this game of Beyond All Reason. I appreciate each and every one of you who stuck through to the very end of this one. 32 minutes into the game, and we finally have our answer. And I sure hope to see you again in the very next match of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody, and have a lovely rest of your day.